Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. With respect to Serious Fraud Investigation Office, which of the following statements are correct? It was established on the recommendation of Naresh Chandra Committee. It can take up cases suo moto. It falls under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Serious Fraud Investigation Office. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into the first option, yes, it was established on the recommendation of Naresh Chandra Committee. The first statement is right. When you look into the second statement, it can take up cases suo moto. This is a wrong statement. Why? That is because it cannot take the cases suo moto. We have the central government. Only on the recommendation of the central government, we have the Serious Fraud Investigation Office, which can take up a particular case for the fraud investigation. So it cannot take suo moto, but it will require the central government giving a particular case to this particular office. So second statement is wrong. When we look into the third statement, yes, it falls under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which is the right statement, which is why the answer to this would be 1 and 3 only. What is the Serious Fraud Investigation Office? As the very name denotes, this happens to be a fraud investigation agency set up to investigate corporate frauds of very serious and complex nature. In case there is a fraud under the Companies Act, such frauds will be investigated by this particular agency. It falls under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Corporate Affairs and is involved in major fraud probes and coordinates with the Income Tax Department and the Central Bureau of Investigation for the fraud investigation. Why was the SFIO set up? That is because back in the year 2000 and 2002, there was a phenomenon where number of companies were established. These were the vanishing companies. There were shell companies. There were non-banking financial banking companies as well. This had undergone a large number of frauds. So in order to bring a check on the frauds and these companies, we had the Naresh Chandra Committee, which was appointed to check on the corporate governance. It recommended for the establishment of this particular office, and as a result, what we have is this office which will look into the frauds committed by those companies registered under the Companies Act. The Companies Act can be the Companies Act of 1956. It can be the Companies Act of 2013 as well. What are the powers accorded to this particular office? Complex nature frauds having interdepartmental and multidisciplinary repercussions will be investigated by this office. Significant involvement of public interest to be judged by size either in terms of monetary malpractice or in terms of persons affected, and the potential of investigation leading to or assisting towards clear improvement in the systems, law and procedures can also be taken up by this particular office. As we just discussed, the SFIO starts an investigation only after receiving an order from the union government, and it cannot take up cases on its own. The Serious Fraud Investigation Office also has the power to arrest people who violate the company's laws. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Asian Development Bank. India is a founding member of the Asian Development Bank. It was established in 1991 after the end of the Cold War and was modeled on the lines of the World Bank. The Asian Development Outlook is an annual publication produced by the Asian Development Bank. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Asian Development Bank. When we look into the statements, India is a founding member of Asian Development Bank. This is the right statement. So the first option is right. It was established in 1991 after the end of the Cold War and was modeled on the lines of the World Bank. This is partially right and partially wrong. The first part of the statement is wrong. That is because it was established not in the year 1991, but it was established in 1966. So the first part of the statement is wrong. But when you look into the second part of the statement, which is right, which was modeled on the lines of the World Bank. Since the first part of the statement is wrong, the answer to this would be 1 and 3. That is because the second statement is wrong. When we look into important facts with respect to the Asia Development Bank, where is it headquartered? It is headquartered in Manila in Philippines. Who was the first president? Takeshi Watanabe. And it provides prosperity, inclusivity, resilience, sustainability to Asia and Pacific along with the eradication of poverty. Is India a founding member of ADB? Yes, India is a founding member of the Asian Development Bank. The aim of the ADB is social development, reducing poverty in Asia Pacific with inclusive growth, sustainable growth and regional integration, and this is carried out through an 80% investment in the public sector. So what does this bank do? It basically tries to get money from multiple countries, infuses money into the infrastructure development, health sector, public administration system, helping nations to reduce the impact of climate change and to manage their natural resources. Do remember, the headquarters of Asian Development Bank is in Manila in Philippines. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements about Bharatanatyam are correct? A Bharatanatyam performance ends with a Thilana, which has its origins in the name of Tarana of Hindustani music, to show the dexterity of the dancers in footwork and their control and balance over their bodies. Techniques like dancing on the rim of the brass plate and with a pitcher full of water on the head was introduced in Bharatanatyam. The person who conducts the dance recitation is the Natuvanar. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Bharatanatyam. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into the first option, the first statement is right. Why is it right? That is because in Bharatanatyam, it ends with a Tilana, and this Tilana has its origins to Tharana of the Hindustani music. So the first statement is right. When we look into the second statement is not speaking about Bharatanatyam, but instead it is speaking about Kuchipudi. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section, where is Kuchipudi from? Which part of the country is Kuchipudi practiced in? Which is the state it is usually recognized with? So to show the dexterity of the dancers in footwork and their control and balance over their bodies, techniques like dancing on the rim of the brass plate with a pitcher full of water is not to do with Bharatanatyam, it is to do with Kuchipudi. The third statement reads, the person who conducts the dance recitation is the Natuvanar. This also is the right statement. Since the first and the third statement is right, the second statement is wrong. The answer to this would be 1 and 3 only. Let's look at some of the important facts with respect to Bharatanatyam. Bharatanatyam is an important classical dance form in India. It originated in the temples of South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu. It is used to be performed by Devadasis, thus it is also called as Dasiyatam. The precursor dance form to Bharatanatyam happens to be Sadar, and Bharatanatyam dance was kept alive by the Devadasis, who were the girls dedicated to the temples, and the Brihadeshwara temple at Tanjavur has been the center of Bharatanatyam since 1000 CE. Now what is the difference between the classical dances in India and the folk dances? When we speak about the classical dances, the classical dance originates from Natya Shastra. The two basic aspects of classical dance are Lasya and Thandava, but when it comes to folk dance, it is the kind of dance that is developed by the people, reflecting their lives often to the local music. When it comes to the classical dance, they are associated with spirituality, and folk dance is associated with celebrating agricultural harvest or social gatherings like weddings, so on and so forth. When it comes to the classical dance, it is more demanding and is usually strict with the technical aspects. They have a lot of technical aspects which the dancers will have to comply by. But when it comes to folk dancing, it is funnier and free. Folk dance is based on local stories, usually about relationship among people or about different seasons. Classical dances are more about grace and composure. Folk dances are more about energy, enthusiasm and power. Classical dances are performed by professional or highly trained dancers who have studied their form for many years. Folk dances are not performed by professional dancers. It is a dance of the common people. There are 8 classical dances in India. There are more than 30 folk dances in India. So please remember, these are the differences between classical dance and folk dance, and it can also be asked in your mains examination. Now let's look into the next practice question. with respect to Krishna River, which of the following statements are correct? The largest tributary of the Krishna River is the Tungabhadra River. Alamatti Dam is a hydroelectric project on the Krishna River in North Karnataka. Krishna River is the third longest river of India. Musi is the left bank tributary of Krishna. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Krishna River. When we look into these statements, all the 4 statements are right. Yes, Musi happens to be the left bank tributary. Krishna is the third longest river of India. Alamatti Dam is on the Krishna River, which is in North Karnataka, and largest tributary of Krishna River happens to be Tungabhadra. If we look into facts of Krishna River, it is one of the longest rivers of India, which originates from Mahabaleshwar in Maharashtra. It flows through Sangli and drains the sea in Bay of Bengal. The river flows to the state of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and Tungabhadra is the main tributary, which itself is formed by Tunga and Bhadra river that originates in the Western Ghats, and Duddagaga rivers Koina, Bhima, Malaprabha, Dindi, Ghataprabha, Varna, Yerla and Musi are some of the other tributaries. Now if you look into the longest rivers in India, we have Ganga, which happens to be the longest river, followed by Godavari, and Krishna happens to be the third longest river in India. Please remember, this is very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. Statement 1 reads, the United Nations Capital Development Fund and the Arbor Day Foundation have recently recognized Hyderabad as 2020 Tree City of the World. Statement 2 reads, Hyderabad was selected for the recognition for a year following the commitment to grow and maintain the urban forest. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? The answer to this is D. That is, statement 1 is not correct, but statement 2 is correct. Why is the first statement wrong? That is because it was recognized by the Arbor Day Foundation and Food and Agriculture Organization and not United Nations Capital Development Fund. So the first statement is wrong. The second statement is right, that Hyderabad was selected for the recognition for a year following its commitment to grow and maintain the urban forest. Since the first statement is wrong, the second statement is right. The answer to this would be D. A small clarification from yesterday's daily quiz. When it comes to the second question, I did say for the first statement that it is 2020. I'm sorry and I completely regret it. It is not 2020, but instead it is 2022. Please stay corrected. It is 2022 and not 2020. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is green hydrogen. Let us try and understand what is this topic all about. When we speak about hydrogen, hydrogen is one of the most abundant chemical element in the nature. As noted by the International Energy Agency, the global demand for hydrogen for use as a fuel has tripled since the year 1975. Currently, we are using as much as 70 million tons a year according to statistics from the year 2018. In addition, it is also a clean energy source as well. It only emits water vapor and leaves no residue in the air, unlike the coal and the oil. Now, what is this green hydrogen and how is it obtained? So when it comes to green hydrogen is produced through electrolysis using renewable sources of energy such as solar, wind or hydel power. So what is green hydrogen? We have different types of hydrogen. What are these different types of hydrogen? One is the gray hydrogen, second is the blue hydrogen, third is the green hydrogen. What is this gray hydrogen? If we are producing hydrogen and it allows for the emission of the carbon dioxide, and if carbon dioxide is emitted into the atmosphere, that is what is called as hydrogen. So we have the hydrogen that is produced, but it is also resulting in production of the CO2, where CO2 is emitted into the atmosphere, which is called as the gray hydrogen. Then we have blue hydrogen, where there is split natural gas into hydrogen and CO2, but this CO2 is stored or reused. In this particular case, it is not emitted into the atmosphere, but it is stored or reused, which is why it is called as blue hydrogen. Then we have green hydrogen, where it is split water into hydrogen by electrolysis powered by water or wind. Here there is no emission of carbon dioxide. Since there is no emission of the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which is why it is called as green hydrogen. Why is India pursuing green hydrogen? That is because India made a promise in the Paris Agreement that it wants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 30 to 35% from the 2005 levels. It has also spoken about net zero economy by the year 2070, and this basically means that you require some of the projects, and one of the projects which will help in mitigating the impact of climate related changes and also bring down the emissions of carbon dioxide happens to be with respect to green hydrogen project, which is why India is taking up this particular program. How much green hydrogen is India producing? India has just begun to generate green hydrogen with the object of raising non-fossil energy capacity to 100 gigawatts by 2030. It was on April 20th, 2022 that the public sector Oil India Corporation, which is headquartered in eastern Assam's Dulhajan, set up India's first 99.9% pure green hydrogen pilot project in keeping with the goal of making the country ready for the pilot scale production of hydrogen and its use in various applications. So what are the advantages of the green hydrogen? Green hydrogen can be generated without any harmful emissions. If renewable energy is used to generate electricity for electrolysis of water, it is a clean burning molecule which can decarbonize a range of sectors including iron and steel, chemicals and transportation. To meet the intermittencies in the future, green hydrogen acts as energy storage option. Renewable energy that cannot be stored or used by the grid can be channeled to produce hydrogen. Hydrogen is a clean energy source that only emits water vapor and leaves no residue in the air, unlike coal and oil. And green hydrogen can be used for long distance mobilization such as in railways, large ships, buses as well as trucks. However, there are certain challenges as well. One is the high cost, where the energy from the renewable energy sources which are key to generating green hydrogen happens to be a costly affair. Then there is high energy consumption as well. The production of hydrogen in general and green hydrogen in particular requires a large amount of energy than other fuels, and there are also safety issues as well, as hydrogen is highly volatile and flammable, and what we require is extensive safety measures, or else there can be leakage and explosions. These are some of the challenges when it comes to green hydrogen. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.